So welcome everyone to this panel session, which forms part of our 2021 Festival of Treasury Transformation. In today's session, we'll be celebrating the success of our prize winners from 2021. They are our highest performing students from across all our qualifications, having achieved the highest overall mark in their year. We also recognize our bursary student of the year, although they are not joining us today. We will hear from each of them on how they found their studies, how they managed the challenges of COVID, balancing work and study in an all-virtual world, how the qualifications have helped in their jobs and careers, and end by asking them to provide some hints and tips for our other students. Before we begin, just to introduce myself, I'm Janet Legge, Director of Awarding Body at the ACT, responsible for the development of our syllabi, the content and design of our qualifications and assessment process for our students. And as many of you may know, we moved to online assessment and remote invigilation back in 2016, and we're trailblazers in this space, being one of the first UK professional bodies to move to online invigilation. Luckily for us, the hard work we have done over the last few years has put us in a strong and stable position to weather the challenges brought to us with COVID. So it is really wonderful that after what has been a challenging 20 months for so many of our members, we can spend some time celebrating the hard work of our students, who despite their own circumstances and challenges have remained committed to improving their professional development. I'd also like to flag that each of the panelists today are showcased on our prize-ridden webpage on the website and in the December issue of the Treasury magazine, which should be out this week. So please have a look through your copy and enjoy the article on their stories. So without further ado, I'd like to ask my panel to now introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves, including which award they won. And we'll start with Jeff, who is our ACT Student of the Year, who completed the Advanced Diploma. The Advanced Diploma is our master's level qualification and leads on to the highly regarded fellow status of the ACT. So Jeff, over to you.
Hey, I'm Jeff Snyder. I am currently the group treasurer for a UK-based insurance conglomerate. And I came over to the UK in about 2005 and started my treasury career from there.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff. Alex, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I'm Alex Rutherford. I am the Assistant Treasurer for SGN, which is a gas distribution network in the UK. I previously was the Treasury Manager at Yorkshire Water, and before that I did a variety of banking and corporate finance advisory roles in London. This year's award, I won it for the Diploma in Treasury Management.
Thanks, Alex. Katie?
Hi, everyone. So my name's Katie Mellor, and I won the Certificate in Treasury Award this year. I'm actually in the trade finance sales team at Lloyds Bank in the commercial banks, covering industrials and energy, large corporate customers. I've been at Lloyds for about 4 years, in my current role for about 2.5, and before that I joined Lloyds on the graduate scheme.
Excellent. Thanks, Katie. Charlotte?
Hi everyone, my name is Charlotte Thorogood. I am a Treasury Sales Associate at Bank of America. I completed the certificate in International Cash Management earlier this year, and I've been with the bank for roughly 4 years. Prior to that, similar to Katie, I was a graduate.
Excellent, thank you. So it's great to have you all here today, and well done again on your hard work. So to get into a little bit of detail though, first sort of question is to find out from each of you why you chose to study an ACT qualification, how you found the process and the experience. And Charlotte, as you just said, you came through the cash management route. We recently redesigned it and launched it earlier this year. Why did you choose to do that qualification?
So I was initially drawn to the certificate in International Cash Management, as several of my senior colleagues had done the award previously, some of them from 20 years ago, some of them much sooner, as close as 1 or 2 years ago. For me, the certificate in International Cash Management, the curriculum, it really focused on the day-to-day of a treasurer. And since I work with treasurers pretty much every day. I thought it'd be a really useful exam to do to really help me understand their perspective. I was really excited to embark on the new course, since the revised material had some great new material on some of the key trends in the market at the moment, some things like blockchain and payments, or the importance of digitalization. So it's really helped me prepare myself well for the conversations that I'm having day to day with treasurers. And I found the whole experience really rewarding, and can only but encourage others to take the qualification to deepen their knowledge.
Thank you. That's great to hear. I mean, I think we hope that the qualifications are quite practical in that you can take them into your day job. So excellent. So now the other three sort of came through the Treasury route. So we'll start with Katie, if you'd like to kind of go through your experience.
Yeah, sure. So when I started in banking at Lloyds, I actually had a languages degree. So I studied German and Russian at university. And obviously there was a lot of on-the-job learning, but I actually really wanted to upskill myself and felt like I could do that best through a professional qualification. I chose ACT and, specifically the certificate in Treasury, because the people I'm usually dealing with at my customers are generally, treasurers or treasury departments. And I just felt like it would give me a better overview of their priorities. Obviously, I'm specialized in trade finance, but it really gives me that good overview, just lets me have like richer conversations with my customers. And then actually, I think the process and experience was really great. Started off on the certificate in Treasury fundamentals and enjoyed that, and then decided to move on to the certificate in Treasury. Just felt like all the 5 units really added something different, and just really enjoyed getting into the detail of it.
Excellent. Are you thinking of going further, or is that it?
Yeah, not sure at this point. Potentially, sort of have, after completing it, taken a little bit of time, and then might continue. Yeah.
Maybe Alex and Jeff can sway you to keep going. Thank you, Katie. Alex?
Yeah, so I came from a banking background and advisory, and they've got their own sets of qualifications that you take, like the CISI and stuff like that. And the ACT wasn't something that was widely kind of communicated to young bankers when I joined banking. So when I made the jump into Treasury at Yorkshire Water, it was one of the kind of the first things that my then boss said would be really, really good to kind of start working on. So I did my Cert T in 2018-19, and then immediately went on to the diploma straight after. And it, to be honest, I did it that quickly after each other because I wanted to be able to develop my career quite quickly, and I kind of thought that by using the learning materials at the same time as actually applying them and learning on the job too, it would make the whole process a little easier. Now, it was definitely challenging. It certainly wasn't straightforward, especially when you're kind of juggling with work and with it, with a family as well. But actually, the resources and support from the ACT and my employer at the time were fantastic, and they definitely helped me through.
Excellent, well done. I think it is important, isn't it, if your employer is behind you as well? That makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And Jeff, over to you.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, I've been working in the Treasury space for about 15 years. And previously I'd done a master's degree at London Business School. I knew, I could hack the master's kind of level qualification, and the advanced diploma seemed like it was the best fit with where I sort of am in my Treasury journey and where I'm trying to go, that type of thing. And so I just, it was kind of something I'd sort of been putting off and procrastinating a bit, because, with family stuff, work stuff, it just seemed like kind of never a great time. But I certainly thought maybe with COVID and the pandemic that it was definitely the universe trying to tell not just me, but a lot of people something. And so I interpreted that as a sign that it was time to just get cracking on it. And so I did it, and I'm really glad. I'm glad I did. And I'm aware that it's kind of the last step or stop on the train, I suppose, in terms of qualifications. And so I guess you guys will have to mock up a PhD program for me.
Well, we'll think about that one. We'll keep that in the back pocket for now. That's great to hear, and from all of you, really sort of pleased that it's been a positive experience. So I suppose, I mean, sort of going on, Jeff, you kind of alluded to some of these points as well that we're going to cover, but obviously the last nearly 2 years has been challenging to everyone, made a lot of us sort of rethink things, or, where do we want to be, what do we want to do? And like you said, it's sort of like, why do it now when things are so uncertain? So what were some of the things that you had to do in terms of making it work with all the other uncertainty, all the work challenges, balancing all of that? And what were some of the best bits about doing it now? And what were some of the worst bits that happened in this time? So Alex, are you happy to kick that one off?
Yeah, sure. It certainly was a hectic time. But for I guess us, not just in the Treasury function, but in the family too. We were, as I'm sure everybody was across banking and Treasury at that time, from March 2020 through pretty much till now, it has just been non-stop. And that at the same time, my partner fell pregnant as well. So, and then had a little one in December. So it kind of bridged the two sets of modules that I did. So not the greatest timing, but, had a bit more spare time, I guess, in terms of less commuting. But yeah, I chose to do it then to keep the momentum up from the Cert T. As I said, I was still learning quite a lot on the job too, and it was helping me with that and being able to take what you're doing in the from the study material and directly apply it the day after. That's quite how my brain works. It learns by kind of doing, so it was helpful in that respect. The worst thing about I'll come on to leave the best to last, I guess. The worst thing was definitely trying to allocate enough time for studying. And when you do the diploma, you've obviously got the big essay style modules too, and it was really hard to actually allocate enough time because we were so busy at work, because I had a young child, to do these and make enough time for it. But I got through it, I guess, with the support of my family, with my employer. I think the best thing, as I say, and I'll just reiterate, was being able to apply what you were learning directly on the job. It made it more fun. It made it easier to learn, and it actually, you could actually see yourself developing over the course of the qualification. So that was quite nice to see.
Excellent. Did you find, and maybe for the others to think about as well, everything sort of being virtual and plus then having to study virtually, in the evening? I think, we've heard people are kind of fatiguing from this whole virtual world, and sort of to work and then in the evening to sort of have to go back online to study. Was that challenging?
Yeah, 100%. The same. I think a lot of people were still adjusting and still are adjusting to a more work from home balance, and you really do need to be strict with yourself, and I'll leave that to my top tips. But yeah, you need to be strict with yourself in terms of setting boundaries for work and personal life, your family, and then your studies. It was tough. It was.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Jeff?
Yeah. So, some of the best parts. I'm trying to just reflect a bit on the timeline, and I kind of think in retrospect that I think the advanced diploma kicked off in February 2020, and then it was was late February, early March when the sky started falling. And I kind of wonder whether, if it had just been, the program had started a few weeks later, whether or not I would have kind of, commenced with it, because things at work got really busy and really crazy just for everybody. So to me, that was, the advanced diploma and the studying was almost a bit of an oasis. It was something, it was a bit of a reprieve from the day to day. And so I was lucky to have that. And there's other ways, people can, burn off stress and stuff like that. But it's, I think, applying yourself and the precious free time you do get to a professional qualification isn't a bad thing, or any kind of qualification or advancement. And so, I think it was a good thing to have going on. It also did keep me, it kind of switched me and forced my brain to kind of, to pivot a bit. And it did bring some fresh thinking into my day-to-day, which wasn't something that I necessarily would have thought it would have at the outset. But that was useful to have. It was also useful to have, just a built-in network of, senior Treasury professionals to kind of bounce ideas and stuff off of. And, we have a, pretty busy kind of WhatsApp group that still goes on in the background, and people are always peppering, each other with questions about crypto exchanges and, needing to transfer money to some kind of, exotic part of the world, and how's the best way to do that. And so it was great to have the, the camaraderie along. Obviously there was a lot of uncertainty going, I could see, I was fortunate. I was able to kind of keep my head above water. I think some people, couldn't because of their jobs. I've found that Treasury, I mean, there's typically a BAU kind of day-to-day aspect, in most Treasury roles, but then, the more senior you get, it becomes really a lot about kind of project managing, and, you have kind of a portfolio of work. And so, that each little project will have its own kind of time scales. And, when those pick up, there's not much you can do. There's only so many hours in the day. And so you have to play a bit of a shell game. But, I think if you're disciplined and you stick to your strategy, anybody can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that it's nice to hear in a way that the studying was a bit of an oasis away, from some of the day-to-day stresses and chaos. So that's a lovely way to think of it. So thank you. So Katie, you're good and bad.
Yeah. So, I mean, I chose to study the certificate like just before the pandemic happened. And obviously there's 5 units, and I decided to do 2 at once, which was actually going to be in April 2020. So I had to study for and take those exams in the height of the first lockdown. I'd say obviously there were stresses with uncertainty and lockdown, and work was quite hectic, but I also find I had more time at home that I would normally be going out and doing things. So I really just tried to use that extra time, so to speak, to really channel it into something productive, focus on the exams, and I think it actually worked out quite well in the end. But yeah, funnily enough. So
excellent. Great, thank you, Katie. Charlotte?
Yeah, I actually also felt similar to Jess. And I looked at it, in amongst all this craziness of the pandemic, there actually was quite a lot of structure and focus that an exam like the certificate in international cash management gave me. It just meant I got to the end of my day and I knew what I was doing with my evening. I knew how much time I needed to spend on it. I wasn't distracted by potentially going out and seeing friends, because that just wasn't an option. Much of my study time was during a lockdown, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. So I really looked forward to it in the evening, as bad as that may sound. And I also think, I mean, Janet, you alluded to this earlier on in the session. I think the ACT did an incredible job with everything being online and virtual, which really added to helping things to go very smooth. I have friends who unfortunately had their exams pushed back multiple times. This is on different award bodies, not with the ACT. One who actually flew to Stockholm to get out of the country to be able to sit an exam. So just to be able to do online was just, just took the stress away. And I just think it was really useful to have that material all easily accessible and just available so that you could work through it at your own pace.
Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, I mean, it was something that we were quite lucky we did 4 years ago, was moving to online assessments, and hopefully people had a fairly smooth experience taking them online at home. I know it's not always the most easiest or stress-free experience when you're sort of responsible for all your own kit and, making sure your internet's not going to drop out and things like that. But it was something that we were really pleased we had done, and at least could support all the students. You didn't have to pause or wait a year. So thank you for that feedback. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so now you've all sort of got these qualifications under your belt, maybe thinking about doing more. Specifically, can you tell our listeners sort of what value you feel the qualification has added to your jobs and careers? Has it been useful? Is there anything particular that you thought was great that's helped you? So Katie, coming to you first.
So I mean, I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I'm actually in trade finance, and I think it's a couple of things. I think it's let me kind of widen that view of, get this holistic view of Treasury priorities, not just trade finance, but kind of a wider view, and I can see how what I do fits into that bigger picture as well. So I think that's been really helpful and let me have more insightful conversations with my customers and just really deliver for them better within my current role. And then I think just generally regarding future career, future job opportunities, etc. I think it will make me more versatile and just open up more options. And it's really, just getting that wider view hopefully will be helpful for my future career as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Katie. Charlotte?
Yeah, completely agree with everything that Katie has said, to be honest. I've definitely noticed a shift in the responsibility that's being given to me at work, definitely taking a bit more of a centre position with clients, taking on more responsibility, more interaction, and that has just come from the respect of my colleagues for taking this exam. It's given me a lot of confidence with being able to answer more technical questions with clients, and I think one of the most important things which often goes unnoticed is just that broadening of the network, and not just professional but also personal. There was plenty of opportunities to connect with other people who were on the same course as you. Just having that network of people working in other banks, in other treasury firms, that's really broadened, and felt like it's one of the best parts of the qualification.
Great, thank you. I think that's something that we do. I think the ACT sort of does pride itself on, is that we are quite a small membership body. We're not a huge one with hundreds of thousands of members, which does allow there to be that sort of support network. And once you start to get those connections and build relationships, I think they can be so powerful and helpful. And Jeff, you mentioned your sort of WhatsApp group from the advanced diploma, which is still pinging away, which is great to hear. So I don't know if you want to talk about some of the things that have been useful for you.
Yeah, I think Katie hit the nail on the head when she said holistic. And I think a lot of us, we get really kind of bogged down in our own kind of roles or industries even, and you kind of lose sight of the wood through the trees. And so what this course did is sort of reminded me that actually there's a really big finance ecosystem out there, and Treasury is a big component, a key component. But I used to say when I worked in advisory that if you've seen two treasuries, you've seen two treasuries, because they're all different. Every organization has kind of a different, definition of Treasury, and it's got a different kind of value proposition depending on where you go. And so what this did is just kind of remind me of that big world out there, and you kind of see that there's potentially myriad different sort of value streams where Treasury can be, where Treasury can, which shows you how essential Treasury is, I should say. And so that's been really useful. And as you said, Janet, the ACT is not, the biggest, fraternity sorority in the world. It's quite an exclusive club, in that regard. And so, the membership and the access, to the other members is absolutely beneficial as well.
And Jeff, obviously the advanced diploma, you have slightly different assessments to the other quals. You have to do the exam, but then you also have to do the dissertation and the presentation of that dissertation. How did those two elements, did they sort of add anything? Or did you feel they gave it some value?
Yeah, I was most nervous, I think, about doing the dissertation because, exams are, there's a start and a finish, and somebody else is kind of peppering you with questions. But the dissertation and the ambition to create, 20,000 words of something that somebody would want to read and then have to talk about it. It's a little bit of kind of an out of body experience. And, my own kind of academic background didn't involve a tremendous amount of writing, although I've always enjoyed writing and like to read, that type of thing. So, I was most nervous about that, but decided just to embrace it because I figured, when else am I ever going to have the chance to create something and to write something, on a topic of my choosing, and really roll up my sleeves and get to research it. And I found that experience really rewarding. And I tell that to everybody. It was by far and away the biggest surprise of the journey for me. But if you do get the chance to do the dissertation, make the most of it, and really embrace it.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. And I know you did. I'm fortunate to miss your presentation last February, but I know it was excellent as well. So that's great.
I won't hold it.
And Alex,
I can give it a hint if you want, Janet.
I think we still got the recordings. No, I'm joking. Alex.
Yeah, it's definitely been useful. I'm not trying not to repeat too much of what everybody else has said, but that ability to take what you're learning and apply it directly, but then also, certainly with the diploma, you take the technical skills that you've acquired from the Cert T or from wherever, and you then start to kind of apply layers of management and even some strategic thinking as well. And that was great for me because that was where I wanted to take my career. I just definitely want to keep progressing in that sense. And actually, being completely frank, the qualification did help me get a more senior role. It's become almost a minimum requirement now for kind of anything from Treasury Manager above to have the AMCT letters after your name. So absolutely, it helped me both progress professionally on the job, but also kind of literally in my career too.
Excellent. That's it's exactly what we want to hear. So I'm really pleased. So we're coming sort of towards the end, the last question really, and this is your kind of hints and tips. What would you suggest? How would you tell other students or potential students to, do's and don'ts and how to get through it, COVID or no COVID, So Jeff, do you want to kick this one off?
Yeah, I don't think there's a secret formula. I think everybody, works differently and has kind of their own sort of motivations. I guess, I would just encourage people just to get, just roll up the sleeves, get started on it. And I think once you do, the momentum will largely kind of carry you through. It's a pretty big, it can be a pretty big first step, but that's it.
So don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
Excellent. Katie?
Yeah, so like obviously I'd agree everyone's different and there's probably no secret formula, but the way I went about it was firstly just making sure I left myself enough time to actually get through the whole syllabus, read the whole thing through initially. I didn't want to just cram for the exam. I really wanted to remember it a bit longer term. So I think that's the first thing. Secondly, I love a good note card, so I made lots of note cards to test myself on some of the facts, figures, formulas, etc. And then the other thing I find really helpful just for like exam technique was the past papers, because it's not just yes, no, wrote, learned answers. You have to apply what you've learned to like situations. So I'd say past papers were definitely helpful in that regard.
Great, thank you. Good to know they're used and not just sat there. Alex?
Yeah, exactly what Jess said. In terms of everybody's different, so there's no one way to approach this. I would say what helped me was actually creating a plan, whether it be a study plan or a kind of a work plan for the essays. Create a plan, but actually then put it into your work calendar. Don't just put it on a piece of paper away from work, because what you end up finding is that you do get completely absorbed into your work, and you find yourself working or living off your work calendar. So that helped me kind of be a bit more regimented in terms of study. What I'd also say is, definitely when you are juggling a job, the studying, and a family, is you kind of do have to really take care of your mental health and make time to really kind of escape. And I mean that in the sense of away from the laptop, away from the work phone, just get out, do something different, do something with your family. Because if you don't do that, you will burn out probably if you don't kind of take care of yourself. And finally, don't be afraid to seek the support of your family, but also obviously the ACT and your employer. Don't be afraid to reach out and say, I need some more time off, or can I allocate a bit of time every day to do some studying and that kind of thing. And you'd be amazed. Most people are very accommodating in that sense.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned some really important things there that have really come to light, I think, in the last couple of years as well. Just the importance of looking after yourself and making sure that, we're all sort of number one and we're okay, whatever that looks like, and asking for support. But I think what's also nice is actually that studying and doing something different also helps you as well sometimes get through things. It's a different way of using your brain, and can support, and with that sort of mental well-being side of things as well. So it's a really good point there, Alex. Thank you. Charlotte, do you want to finish us off?
So I was quite fortunate when I was doing my studying. There was a colleague of mine who was also doing the same course at the same time as me, and we had bi-weekly catch-ups together. We would ask each other questions on anything that we didn't understand or just wanted some further clarification on. So if you can, loop one of your friends in or your colleagues in to try and do it with you, and at least you've got that support. If not from your family, then from your colleague who's also going through the same as you, and just help each other stay motivated. And if no one at work wants to do the course, then I'd say have a look on the forums that are available. There's always people's names. Find them on LinkedIn. Send them a message. Hey, I think you're doing the same exam as me. Do you want to catch up? Have a quick 10 minutes on some of the questions that I have. I think that's incredibly useful, just as I mentioned, just to keep motivated and make connections and make the most of the experience. I also found the interactive study sessions really helpful. I think I mentioned earlier on, so much of the course was important for me because it was about understanding other people's perspectives. So just making sure that you do those questions in advance of the session, having your own views and being able to debate with others to really help you understand what your views are and what others are as well. And then I think last but not least is going steady as possible. So going to maintain that consistency, not trying to cram at the very end. I think the week before my exam, it was the Euros final where it was Italy, England, and if I'd have left it until then, I would have been very unhappy to miss that game, but was fortunate enough to be able to enjoy that because I put the hard work in beforehand and gone slow, but stayed steady throughout. So just keeping going through the material and to be able to keep yourself accountable.
Excellent, thank you. And maybe just having some sort of key dates in there of things you don't want to miss, maybe motivation in itself. But thank you so much. So that kind of comes to the end of our discussion. And I'm hoping that our listeners will find this useful. Thank you all for participating and sharing your ideas and thoughts. And obviously as well, congratulations again on your award, and well done for all your hard work. And to our listeners, just a reminder that you can find out more about them on our website and in the December issue of the Treasurer. So please go and have a look at that. And just lastly, so thank you all. Jeff, Alex, Katie and Charlotte, lovely to have you here. Thank you for being part of this, and congratulations again. So thank you, everyone.